In this episode, I'm going to show you how to make this jungle pyramid. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Game Terrain Engineering. I'm DM Jim, and in this episode, I'm going to show you how to make a piece of terrain that will fit right in with the current D&D 5th edition adventure called Tomb of Annihilation. It takes place on the island of Chult. It's a jungle setting, but this piece is also perfectly suitable for the new Ghost Archipelago game. That's Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago. It's a spin-off of the Frostgrave war game. Ghost Archipelago takes place on a set of lost isles, and everything's supposed to have this jungle theme to it. So I've got this thing right here. You can see the moss and the skull that's got the entrance into it. In this episode, I'm going to show you how I made this. It's not hard. It requires a very cheap skeleton from a hobby store and lots of foam and some paint and moss if you want to add that. Total time, it took me about, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours. Not too bad. Just played it tonight, Wednesday night at my gaming table. My players were being chased through the jungle by a T-Rex. They encountered some Sasquatches, jungle Yetis, you can call them whatever you want. 2 of them were guarding the temple. So while they were fighting the Yetis, in comes the T-Rex. Believe it or not, they managed to survive. They somehow diverted the attention of the T-Rex to the Sasquatches and were able to get in and hide inside while the T-Rex did damage to the other creatures. So anyway, good going, guys. If you're watching this, proud of you. No loss of life tonight, no TPK. Let's get to the video and see how this is made. You will need a skull, preferably one this size. It's Halloween right now. You can go into any Michael's or Hobby Lobby, any Walmart, Target, and if they have a skull roughly this size, let's see, give you some measurements. It's about 4 inches tall and about 4.5 inches deep and 3 inches wide. The reason for this is these dimensions happen to fit something I made. Now, I'm not going to show you how I made this because I think you can figure it out. This is a basic pyramid. The bottom piece right here is 7 inches by 7 inches. And then what I did was I reduced the size by 1 inch each time. I'm sorry, half an inch. So the next layer down, I'm horrible at doing this. 6.5, 6, 5.5, 5, 4.5, 4, 3.5, 3, 2.5, 2. So the top one's 2 by 2. And then basically I just glued them together. I used tacky glue, not hot glue, and I let them dry really well. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to, that's my 3D printer going, by the way, sorry for the noise. I have to modify this to be inserted into the pyramid. What I want to do is I want to create the entrance of an underground tomb. The pyramid will, be the main structure. And then what I've done is I've taken a Dremel and I've cut away the bottom jawbone. See that? I bought 2 because I figured I'd make a mistake, but I actually did pretty well on the first one. So I've got 2 of these now. I cut away the bottom piece. See that? Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a foam cutter I have. I have an older version that's just a wire. It's the, I can't remember the name brand, but I'll put a link in the description. But it's the Hot Foam Factory. That was it. The Hot Foam Factory handheld one. And what I'm going to do, and this is going to take a little time, is I'm just going to cut out of the foam an area for this to insert. And I want it to go in such a way that the skull is sort of tipped back and the bottom jaw is the entrance that goes down into the tomb. This is for my current D&D game, Tomb of Annihilation, and the players are having to go through a mountain range. Instead of going over the mountain range, they found a way to go through the mountain, and this will be the entrance to it. So let's get started. I'm going to start by cutting away the portion of the pyramid where the skull will insert. Okay, in a moment, my voice is going to be a little muffled because I'm using a mask for the fumes. This is the Hot Wire Foam Factory cutter. This is the main reason I bought my Proxxon. I hate this thing. And I'm sorry, if you work for Hot Foam Factory, I don't mean to insult this product, but it's just horrible. This wire has been bent so many times. I bend it back into shape. It does generate heat and it does cut well. But it gunks up, and it's just, I don't know, it's just not that great of a tool in my opinion. But for purposes of this, it's going to be about the only thing I can use to cut into this foam to etch out the place for the skull. So I'm going to put my mask on. As you can hear, my voice is a little muffled. I apologize, but I just don't want to be breathing this mess in. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. It doesn't take long to heat up, and I'm going to do this in very small increments. This looks like a good, I don't think it really matters. But as you can see, it's just cutting in. I'm just going to go in a little bit. And I don't know, I don't know how far to go in yet. So I'm making this up as I go. And now I'm going to cut sideways here. It's not the most accurate tool. But it seems to be doing the job. All right, there we go. So you can see it makes a mess. So what I'm going to do is I kind of need to eyeball this. I'm going to put this on here like this. And I think I'm going to make some marks, staying within those boundaries. And for the height, probably going to also be right about there. All right, so I'm going to try to stay below this. Yeah, below that one right there. And between these two marks, I'm going to try to center it. This is going to take a while. I mentioned in a video a long time back that a lot of times I get about halfway through a project and I'm just really dissatisfied with how it looks, but I've learned since then to just keep pushing on because eventually I find a way to fix whatever I don't like. What I don't like about this is obviously the big gaps around the skull here and beneath, but my idea for fixing that was to frame it with like a stone archway or something. So I know it doesn't look all that great right now, but I'm going to get something built around here, and then I'm also going to build something, probably a staircase or something that goes into the mouth here. I also need to glue this in so it doesn't move on me when I'm testing the framework. So I'll get that done. Well, apologies. I thought the camera was rolling while I was working on this. It turns out it was not. I've glued this to a piece of chipboard. And as you can see, I've just broken some fragments of foam and made a sort of an arched gateway over the top of the skull. I made a fragmented walkway here, and then I just took a knife and just went to town on the pyramid, just chipping away and scratching and just basically ruining it. I still need to, use some aluminum like this to just sort of give it the rocky look. Now, what I'm going to do next, because this is foam, is I am going to Mod Podge this with a black mixture of black paint mixed in with Mod Podge, just because I can't spray paint this. It'll melt the foam. Now, that might work, but I think the damage from the melting will probably make it look less like a pyramid and just more like slag. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to take the time and I'm going to coat this thing completely with Mod Podge. And then I'll spray paint it because I want to spray paint the skull and also inside the skull here. So right now all I'm doing is just rubbing the sides of this with some aluminum just to give it just to ruin the foam, rough it up quite a bit. And then I'm going to time lapse my Mod Podge painting of it. So the Mod Podge coating is done. I'm going to let that dry really well, and then I'll give the whole thing a coating of black paint. Here's the pyramid so far. I sponge painted it gray over a black coat, and now what I'm going to use is tacky glue and some of this green moss, and I'm just going to randomly place the glue in crevices and on edges and things like that. All right, I'm gonna let that dry really good, and we'll see what it looks like when it's done. And that's it. That is how you make this very simple little pyramid with a skull. Took less than 3 hours. Foam skeleton, had to cut out the lower jaw, had to cut out the section of the pyramid with a hot wire cutter, and then I just damaged the tile and painted it and glued on all this moss. And it's very light, but my players loved it, and hopefully if you can make one like this, your players will love it too. Again, perfectly suitable for the Tomb of Annihilation game for D&D, or Frostgrave Ghost Archipelago, or really any jungle theme game that you play. This would make a great little piece to throw at your players. Have fun. If you decide to make something like this, please share a photo in the comments or a link to in the comments. I'd love to see your version of this. Anyway, this is DM Jim, and I'll see you in the next episode.